Back to the Culture Call on Praise 93.3 with L. Spencer Smith. Our desire is to reach and empower the community by discussing a cross-section of relevant topics from various perspectives that are essential to its growth and interpersonal connections. Be sure to save our call-in number, 205-752-4800. Be sure to install the free Praise 93.3 app so you can send L. Spencer Smith a message or topic idea. Search for WTSK in your app store.
This is a world premiere.
Great morning, precious people. You know what time it is. That's right. It's time for the number one talk show right here, The Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Yeah, indeed, it is the place where Tuscaloosa meets the world. And for the next 2 hours from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., you know how we do it. I'm excited to talk a little bit about everything from society to sports, education to economics, definitely from religion to relationships. And as always, we are here to create a safe space. That's right, a safe space to have empowering, provocative, and yes, sometimes controversial conversations. And guess what? You can call in or chat it up with us as we learn together right here on The Culture Call. Absolutely. Listen, want to say a pleasant shout out to our first-time listeners. If you are here for the first time listening to The Culture Call, I want to welcome you to the CC family. Absolutely. We have a wonderful time every day. And I'm telling you, I'm so grateful to have you join us. Now, I don't know who told you about us. Yeah, but I'm glad that they did. So whether you're riding through the city, maybe you're sitting at your cubicle with your earphones on, or maybe you're just on vacation and just need a little power talk, this is the place to be. So welcome to all of our first-time listeners. Listen, number two, shout out to all of you who listen to me every day. Absolutely. You listen to me every day, and I am super, super grateful and that you will always be here with me and have always been here with me since day one. You pushed us to the top, and I am so very grateful for your commitment, your faithfulness, your dedication, and definitely your encouragement. And last but certainly not least, I want to send a special shout out to my mentor. That's right. Yes, indeed. Brother Jay, the inimitable, anointed, phenomenal Brother Jay that leads us right here from 5 a.m. all the way till he passes this fire hot revival baton to me to do this little old talk show. Yeah, for the next 2 hours, I appreciate him, and we all do, as he wakes up every morning to encourage us while we getting ready for work, making breakfast, just in our meditation time. Definitely. He played one of my favorite songs growing up from my childhood. I was scared of that song. God's getting tired of our wicked ways. Did y'all hear that one? Yeah, nobody wanted to say amen on that one, but it is true. God is getting tired. Thank you, Brother Jay, for always encouraging us every morning. Listen, I want you to do me a favor. Go to your app store on your smart device, your Apple or your Android device, and there you will search an app called Praise 93.3 FM. That's right. There is a free 99 app. Does not cost you a single solitary thing. I need you to download that app, and here's what you can do. You can hear us and listen to us from all around the world, definitely all around the country. You can get all the latest news and hear all the amazing programming here on Praise 93.3 and 790 WTSK, but I need you to go ahead and download that app. That's right. So if you're in Detroit, Michigan, whether you're in Jackson, Mississippi, maybe in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, or definitely right here in Tuscaloosa, the beautiful city of Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Mobile, Montgomery, Huntsville, Gordo, Aliceville, Utah, all Bowler G. Does not matter where you are. You can definitely hear us and be a part of the show. Absolutely. Listen, I want to remind you, as I do every morning, to go ahead and email me your public service announcements and events to culturecall.praise@gmail.com. That's culturecall.praise@gmail.com, and give me an opportunity to let Lottie Dottie and everybody know the amazing and awesome things that you're doing to benefit our community. That's right. Whether it's your church organization, your sorority, your fraternity, whether you're an artist getting ready to do a live recording or just have a concert, or whether you're a pastor getting ready to run a revival or start a new church, guess what you can do? You can go ahead and send that to me, and I will let everybody know so that we can put some faces in the place and fill up all of that space so that you will know that what you're doing is valuable to our community. Guess what? Why? Because we do it better when we do it together. And as always, here is the golden number, 205-752-4800. That's 205-752-4800. And you can call into the show and be a part of it. That's the golden number. That's right. I always love to hear from you. Listen, so do me a favor as we get ready to take off. Sit back and relax. Grab you some coffee. You know how we do. Whether it is Maxwell House or Starbucks, maybe coffee is not your thing. I get it. Coffee is not your thing, but maybe you need some herbal tea. Chamomile if you're trying to calm down. Definitely some green tea if you need a little caffeine kick to try to spur up before that lunch hour. Yeah. And if you don't like coffee or tea, you can always get you some alkaline or some good old spring water. Detox that body and let those cells know, hey, we're going to have a great day. Hydrate and come on, let's get into the culture. Listen, we are in the middle, right? I think smack dab in the middle of Men's Month, and I am so grateful. All week long, we've been talking about men and encouraging you, starting out on yesterday, just really letting you know the wonderful things about men. You know, I don't want to play into any of what we're getting ready to talk about. We're talking about black men and conquering and breaking stereotypes. That's what we're going to talk about this morning, because as a black man, I am a champion for black men. Let me say that again, because I didn't get any help in the building. I say, as a black man, I am a champion for black men. Yes, we come in all shapes and sizes and colors and shades and things of that nature. We come from being, summa cum laude, all the way to, how the one that's standing on the corner selling their tapes and their CDs. Whatever we find out, I am grateful to be a black man. And I'll say it again. I'll say it again. I'll say it again. I've been echoing it all week, all month long, that we need to understand the very gift and the value of black men in this country. And I am grateful, in the world, really. And I am grateful, super grateful. One of the things that I want to tackle this morning as we start off, and it might get a little turbulent, is really dealing with breaking some of the stereotypes. When I grew up, there were, and you turned on the TV or you listened to the radio or you looked in a magazine, when it came to black caricature, I think in the early 70s, coming out of the late 60s and the early 70s when I was born and when I was being reared. And I would look, my grandparents would always have Life magazine, Ebony magazine, and Jet magazine. There you would see certain kind of figures. You would see certain kind of stereotypes of what black men were. And some were positive, especially if you're going to look at Ebony and, Jet magazine, they were positive. But a lot of them were negative, was this negative connotation of what black men were. And that always, as a young boy, it always would say to me, okay, what is really going on here? What is happening in terms of how we are supposed to look and how we are supposed to be. And then we came in the 70s with this whole idea of blaxploitation TV, which kind of depicted us as these cool pimp-like guys or shiesty preachers, and or some kind of criminal, and that began to be what the country or the standard for the type or the typography, if I can say that, of what a black man was and is. And even before then, one of the first film that was shown in the White House under President Woodrow Wilson was a racist film depicting black men as vile, ravenous, abusive, hypersexual oriented men that were trying to rape white women, and the Ku Klux Klan coming in to rescue the community and all that. It was called The Birth of a Nation, and they found out after, in those areas, right at the head of Jim Crow, how to depict and to assign a certain value and worth and caricature, if I can say it like that, to black men. And so this country has always had some kind of animus, some kind of disconnect with the reality of what the black man was, is, and has always been in our community. And one of the things that were, so very disenchanting growing up as a black man is that you had, as black men, you had the responsibility to live down those particular caricatures. Now, there's a difference in terms of region. There's an urban black man. If you're in the South, a country black man. I grew up in South Carolina, and there was, a mixture, right? There was, the what we call the Geechee or the Gullah black man. It was just this whole thing. And so what society and the media has sought to do was to portray this black man like he is a stepping fetching, that he's a know-nothing, and that he's ignorant, or he deserves to be jailed, or be a slave, or be a servant. There was nothing empowering on television that served the idea of the black man. And again, after the death of Martin Luther King, on the downside of post-civil rights movement, they decided that to caricature the black preacher as one that was just stealing money, one that was living and driving extravagant houses. They tried to make the media attempted to make the black preacher the pimp in the society. They didn't even, they aligned the black preacher with what the black pimp in the street, right? We just operated in church, but that was the idea. And because they understood that the power of change in the 50s and the 60s came from the strength of the black church and vis-a-vis the black preacher, right? And so they had people like Martin Luther King, Ralph Abernathy, you had Andrew Young, you had C.L. Franklin, you had Jasper Williams, all of these proponents, Jesse Jackson, and the list goes on and on. I don't want to call out so many names, and then you forgot, yeah, right. And so, because it was so many, but preachers were at the forefront of a black empowerment, and the black church was at the forefront. And so one of the conscious decisions, hear me now, one of the conscious decisions of media in this country was to create a caricature of black men, right? Regardless of status, regardless of socioeconomic ability and capacity and capability, no matter if they were college educated or not, let us paint the black man in a particular way so that all of society can gravitate toward him, or can have that kind of outlook with regards to who he is. And so when you begin to understand that context, when you begin to, and you fast forward it, when they figured out that, let's do the 80s, when they figured out that hip hop community and the black church community were coming up with all of these artists that were socially conscious, politically conscious, then they decided to paint the entire, I'm talking about media now, and media in the country decided to paint hip hop because it has so much effect on black youth, both male and female. It was affecting the black community and building it with the message of a Marcus Garvey-esque, Pan-African unity, and really empowering the black people in the 80s with hip hop questioning, institutions and all of that. You had KRS-One and you had Public Enemy. You had all of those things. What they decided then to do is a two-pronged thing. They decided to, okay, let's try to make this fun, and let's promote this whole idea of the comic rapper, right? The one that is not so necessarily conscious, but let's paint them there. And so rappers started to trend because Hollywood started partnering and media started partnering with things and casting no aspersions on those. They were fun rap, but they still didn't get into the community. They didn't move the needle with regards to, the stereotype of black men. And so they went to, this whole violent era, right, of hip hop, right, where we're going to push the demeaning of the community, the violence, and all of this, the profanity, because there was a time when profanity wasn't even used in rap. I know you were like, when was that? Yeah. That's when it was really hip hop. When they were on the street, it was really intelligent and smart and all of that. Yeah, that's how they started to paint the hip hop community, right? And they began to see that violent, murderous prison era began to garner, cause, an increase in funds, because in America, it's all about the cash. It's all about capitalism. There's a litany of groups you begin to curtail the consciousness or the conscious development of black youths, and let's turn them on to violence. Let's turn them on to, drugged out behavior, kingpin, that's the word, kingpin-like behavior, because we don't want to change the stereotype. Because if we change the stereotype, they painted all gospel artists, men as homosexual and gay. Because again, it's been about disempowering the black community vis-a-vis the black church, right? So if we can disempower all of the sound and the sonic and the visuality of positive black male images, both in community and music and in church, those things that fuel the civil rights, then you find us here where we are now, where there is a type of championing against, there's another level of consciousness that's coming out of our community in the church, in the music arena, in the Hollywood. All of those are becoming, are becoming more conscious about who we are as black people. And anytime, mark my words, anytime there is a strength and a positivity with regards that comes out of our community in any iteration, whether it be, again, church, whether it's in the music, whether it's in the entertainment, whether it's in the sports or athletic industry, they're going to try to change the narrative or they're going to try to inculcate some level of stereotypical behavior of the black man to diminish the standing of who he is. Watch this. And then they know that we'll start buying into this whole idea of self-imaging ourselves with regards to how they depict us. Right? That's why, as an individual, as a black man, I'm very worried or very cautious about, people that look like me, but always have something to say against my folks or my people, but never have anything constructive to say. I am always concerned and very cautious of how black men, they get to a place of proximity with institution, and then they begin to, not only align themselves with institution and admire the institution, they begin to look on their people with a sense of disdain and a sense of disconnection, and that for me speaks volumes. That for me says a whole lot about, why we can't get together as a community. Well, because you got black men believing what they see about black men. You got black men now being purchased wholesale by the institution to tell us how bad we are. You got, other black preachers fighting black preachers. You got black churches fighting black churches, black institutions fighting black institutions. You got, watch this, you got, members of the D9 now, believing whatever they believe. I don't know what it is, and if your faith has decided that you need to denounce or to disconnect, because I think it's something different. Disconnect from your D9 sorority or fraternity. Go do your thing. But when you denounce, it means you open your mouth and you begin to put on put negative spin and stereotypical behavior on an institution that is valuable. Watch this, in the black community, right? I want you to see something systemic and systematic here, that it lines up and has always been like that in this country, right? that it has always been, and especially when you begin to attack black men, because if you understand this, that black men are really the cornerstone of the black community. We are really the foundation. Now, I get it. I understand how the stereotype has caused us to believe that is black women. No, we cannot do it without black women. Black women have power. They have agency. They are a consistent and faithful product and of the black community. That, there is no black community without the black woman. Obviously, I mean, from a very physical sense, but also a conscious and a conscientious sense, there cannot be any kind of black community without black women. But the same can be said without black men, because it takes black men and black women to create a black community, right? And so when we begin to look at that from that perspective, we've got to begin to breathe. We got to begin to say some things. We got to begin to say, okay, wait a minute. Why is this like this? Why are they depicting us in this fashion? Why is this the sense of knowing and the notion of how we look in society? Why are they depicting our black boys as only those who have their pants sagging and only those? How come they're not featuring those who are intelligent? How come they're not featuring those who are doing well in school? Why are they only focusing on the gangs, but they're never focusing on the positive group of young black men that are moving forward and doing well in school and in their community? And why are they focusing on the fathers and the daddies that leave, right? That don't take care of their children? Why is that the media, the meme of the season, and not the fathers, which is overwhelmingly, from a percentage and statistical standpoint, more black fathers are in the home than without the home, are present with regards to rearing their children, as opposed to not, right? Why do they paint us in the media, right, with this stereotype that we have all these babies hypersexual, and then we abandon these babies, right? Why do they highlight the ones that have 12, 13 babies by different women, but they don't show that father who goes every day faithful to his wife, there for his children, right? What are they really trying to say? And better yet, what are they really trying to do? And I think as a black community, as preachers, as teachers, as doctors, as businessmen, we need, again, to vehemently, with an open mouth and open and bare face, begin to address some of these negative stereotypes that of the treatment of black men in society, right? Perpetuating discrimination and perpetuating injustice, because if I can make George Floyd in your mind, I'm talking about in your black mind, because they're already thinking in their white mind. If I can make you think that he was not worthy of life, right? That if I can make you think that he was a scoundrel and he was not one that had a family, that had children, if that we would begin to agree with the way they decided to kill him. We would begin to agree with the way that he died. So I've got to begin to castigate Mike Brown, and I've got to begin to use Trayvon Martin to find some level of wrong that he did. Right? And so they will take a Trayvon Martin and make him seem like a thug that simply, beat up this man who attacked him in his own neighborhood, right? They had to do that. I sat there and watched that trial. They had to, try to make our young boys and our young men, such characters, right, that we would begin to agree that they deserve to die, right? And I'm talking about, not when I say we, I'm talking about black folks, that we won't fight for their lives. But we need to understand, in any iteration that a black man shows himself up in, whether he is urban in the city, in the ghetto, whether he is country, whether he is educated or not as educated as some, whether he's a janitor or whether he is a Fortune 500 type of guy, we need to defend the worth and the value of black men that's trying to be taken away by these stereotypical behaviors that they are, watch this, intentionally showing. Right? That you can't trust your pastor because they're showing you a preacher that's shiesty on TV every week. They're showing you a caricature of a preacher, right? That you cannot believe, you'll disconnect from the black church. You won't serve you, because again, as I said, they've monitored and they've studied what builds our community. Hear me, Culture Call. They have studied what builds our community, and they know it is black men. They know it is the black church with the black preacher. They know that it is black music. They know that it is the actors like Harry Belafonte and Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier and Denzel Washington. They know it is those types. So whatever we can do to castigate and tear them down. You know, Hollywood did not support the recent movie with that's out right now with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence because, of course, of the issue that happened with Martin and Chris. I mean, not Martin, but with Will and Chris Rock, right? With that slap. And you saw all kind of commentators, even, watch this, a black man, Stephen A. Smith. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to support the movie until Will gives an... Will doesn't owe us any explanation. Will owes Chris Rock and his family an explanation. And if Chris Rock hasn't said anything, why are you saying anything? It's because it's that whole idea of I'm so busy trying to distance myself from the mythical stereotype of black men that I'm willing to demonize another black man in order to find and proffer favor with the institution, because I love the agency to whiteness. I love the agency to supremacy. I love the agency to all of that. Well, hey, here's some good news that movie globally has already topped $1 billion, right? Without Hollywood support, without them. No, Will and Martin said, we're going to get on the road. We're going to connect with our community all around the globe, and we're going to sell our film. And now it is the top. Let me say that one more time, Culture Call. It is the top movie in the country, right? And we don't understand, we don't understand what that means in terms of breaking the stereotype. They wanted to paint. Now listen, back in the 80s, remember I just told you about comedy, hip hop. They wanted to change that and make it fun because of the conscious message. They did that to Will Smith. That's what Hollywood did to Will Smith, making him the Fresh Prince. Right? That's what they did. That whole entertainment section did that. And so, yeah, he was the epitome of what an artist, a rap artist should be, right? Because he's the Hollywood golden child, making, top albums and, and at the movies. And then there's an altercation with another black man. Now they're trying to make us believe that same Will is a violent, abusive, disconnected, psychopathic black man, right? And why? And you have to stop, y'all. Why do they do that? There is a method to the madness. And if we can show that there is always diminishing value in whenever you put black men in a particular place, if we can always show you that their violence is always going to creep out, or their hypersexuality is always going to creep out, or watch this mystique of femininity is going to creep out of them, right? If we can show them as an unviable component of instability in our community. And when we overlook them, and when we jail them, and when we fuel our mass incarceration school to prison pipelines with them, when we put them, watch this, back in enslavement, right? Then there will not be an outcry. There will not be anything that defends him. There will not be, and that community is left to shambles. If I can show, or typify or make it the thing of that black man, and I'm not against anything against interracial marriage. I'm talking about the stereotype that he doesn't love his black women, that he treats her bad, but he does this to white women, that's what they want to do. And you've got to stop and ask yourself, why? And if you don't ask yourself that, you are going to be one that's participating in and the perpetuation of the stereotypes of black men. Remember, black men, black family, black community, everything that empowers us as a people will be attacked by the media. And you've got to understand that. And we're going to talk about this morning, Culture Call, have the hard conversation, but necessary, of black men and breaking these vicious stereotypes. Because if we do not, let me say this again, if we do not, they're going to overrun and push us to the side, and there's going to be a generation that again has to start from ground zero and not knowing who they are, and there are going to be institutions, valuable institutions that are necessary for us to build toward the future that are torn down by our hands, by our own hands, looking at their stereotypes of us. So yeah, Culture Call, we're going to have a great day on talking about, breaking these stereotypes. That's right, with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on Praise 93.3 and 790 WTSK. I need you to keep it right here. We've got a whole lot of show for you, and I don't want you to miss it. Don't you dare.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, having an amazing day and a powerful conversation concerning black men and breaking stereotypes. That's right, breaking the stereotypes. Ma'am, sir, we got work to do. We have work to do, and we will not sit idly by and not have at least a compelling conversation about the images that are being shown concerning black men. As a black man, sometimes I watch the television and I get it, and I applaud all the actors because they got to do their thing. They got to do their grind. But one of the things that I've been taught to do, in school is that we begin to what they call in theological ethics, that we begin to look at certain movies or certain areas of entertainment, music, movies, books, just visual, those of the audio visual nature, and begin to try to trace certain ethical elements, right? So how do they portray humanity in a consistent basis? How do they feature a particular caricature? And that's always been fascinating to me, especially I was raised in the age of the rise of the black sitcom, where you had Good Times, Sanford and Son, The Jeffersons, That's My Mama, What's Happening Now, all the way up into, The Jeffersons. Did I say that? Yeah, The Jeffersons, Fresh Prince, Martin, Living Single. I always watch to see in every movie and everything how they dare to portray or betray, right? Depend on the play on words, the images of black people. That's very important to me because why? Number one, I'm a black person. And I know if you paint us wrong, if you paint us incorrectly, then what's going to happen is people will begin to get a certain mental notion, right? They'll begin to get a certain mental idea with regards to, what we look like, what we are to do, how we are to, align ourselves, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's very, very important because yes, our children are watching and the culture is watching. And so, a lot of times when you walk out your door, people don't know you. They know the caricature that has been painted of you, right? They know what they see TV says you are. They know what they understand that the media says that you are. And a lot of times, people will utilize that and begin to, align themselves with the particular nature of an individual's life, right? And so, as smart, as educated, intelligent as I am, I'm a pastor, double degreed, about to be, going for it again. The degrees are going to get hotter and hotter. Certified, an artist, an author, all of the accomplishments in my life. There are people that I get on the elevator and they look like with them and they look like I'm getting ready to rob them. They look like I know, I live in the same neighborhood. I've graduated from prestigious universities. I've done all the XYZ, but in their mind, they've been painted a picture that whenever there is the presence of a black man, that they need to be in fear. Right. And guess what? And so when a police officer kills or maims or arrests a black man, especially treats him in a violent way, what is the language that he used? I was what? Afraid for my life. Now, you got the gun. You got the taser, right? All I got is a set of car keys. I'm running away from you because I know you, right? Okay, I know your behavior, right? In terms of how you treat, how people are treated by you, right? And so, of course, police officers have a particular stereotype as well in our community because it's not that in their community. Let's get it straight. That when police officers show their head in black communities, it's a different kind of response than when they come and patrol white communities. It's a different kind, and because their behavior is different. But when I get on, I got to wear my clergy collar, my cross, and my, all of my accoutrements, my religious accoutrements to even get a hello, a good morning, some level of respect when I'm on an elevator, when I'm in a restaurant, and I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I can't. You mean I can't wear my short pants? I'm driving a better car than you. But it's the stereotypes. It's the stereotype that has been fed to them. That's why there is danger when you watch certain news programs. There is danger when you how you allow people to say this is that and this is what a black man is and he's out to get you. Listen, I've never been attracted to white women. Have had friends that, but that's not my attraction. I am a man that loves his black queens. And definitely love my black queen. I mean, listen, when I was growing up, I had a particular aspersion against light-skinned women because, again, I just love black women, right? But that's the caricature that he gonna try to do something. Wow, for what? With what? And you've got to begin to understand, I'm very conscious as a black male pastor that when I get up, and even in my church, when I get up and ask for money and an offering, I'm very careful of how I do that because I already know that some may come in to the sanctuary, and no matter what good we do with the money, there is always somebody in the back of their mind. I read it on social media. They engage my post and they say stupid things. And see, now y'all forgive me because I'm the kind of, but you ought to turn the other cheek. Yeah, okay, but I ain't got but two. But when you try me like that, I'm gonna be like, wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute. You've never been to my church, never sat up under my ministry. You don't know the litany of things in the resume of the things that we have done or I've done as a black preacher that help my community and help the people in my church and all, but they're responding to what? A particular stereotype. And one of the things that we've got to really do is, yes, let's challenge the stereotypes within our communities. Yeah. Why are black men looked at as they are unfaithful, they are hypersexual, violent, and angry? Why are they looked like that? Why are they pictured or symbolized like that? We've got to ask those questions. And where did it come from? Who started that? I think that's very important. Who started the stereotype in the first place? That says black men are not committed, that they are not, courageous, and that they are not nurturers. Who says that? And I get it, that there is always some level of signification of what a man is, right? That we know that from an emotional context that there are differences between men and women. That's not a black thing or a white thing. That's just the way God has wired us, right? It is the level, it's the roles, but it doesn't give us the right to to not show forth emotion. It does not give us the space and the place to be able to, to nurture, because that's what the scripture tells us, to nurture as fathers, to nurture as, that black father has a necessity to nurture and to be present for his children. Again, I told you last week that I saw a black man talking about, well, a father shouldn't be in his child's life until they get to middle school. And I'm like, where is he getting that from? What study has he read that says that is even a viable thing? Because mom was supposed to raise the black boy and the black girl, and then when they get in middle school, daddy. Well, wait. First of all, 1, 2, 3. Where are you from the newborn to middle school? Right? And we have to begin to challenge those notions, because there are people that, we are in a high information, very low intelligence and investigation generation. And so this guy, he's got thousands of likes on the post. And I'm like, what person literally liked this post? I mean, what would make you think that is a viable solution of how we ought to have family? And so that's very important. When I listen to people like Byron Donald from Florida, the representative from Florida, who's a black man, when I listen to Tim Scott, who's from a senator from my native South Carolina, I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Where are you getting these depictions? And I understand. I promise you, I understand. They found power. They found worth in agency being connected to the institution, right? And so part of what the cost of being connected to institution is that you cannot say anything that is plausible or viable that elevates and edifies blackness, black men in particular, and black community, right? You cannot, there always must be something wrong, right? And so, this man says that when, Jim Crow was there, it was better time for black people because the black family was together and black men were in the homes. What do you mean? If they were, black men was hiding out in their own homes, but they were victims, of lynchings. They were victim of racism and all of that. Black men were quiet in that a lot of times in that Jim Crow age because it was a matter of life. That was a time of high violence against black men. What do you mean that just because the man, and again, he's playing into a particular stereotype, a present stereotype that black men are not in the home. What are you talking about? Right. And so if we as a black community do not push back, and I am perturbed, especially, in black church, all the black preachers who are men who say women can't lead and pastor. Okay, if that's the case, then you still ought to be championing with some kind of level of soluble intelligence of what is these things that I'm talking about now, how they are taking and depicting black men, right? How they're depicting the black preacher and the black singer and the black actor, how they're making it seem like that we are good for nothing, right? And that we ought to move aside and cede over, that they're so empowering women. But here's the ideal. That's a part of their angle. Let me say it again, that they're empowering black women to the point, because I don't want the notion to be black men got power and all of that, and then they lead their community and they lead their community in education, in spirituality, in economics. No. Okay, now it's the black women doing that, and watch what they're doing. They're coming after the Fearless Fund that was promoting agency for black women in terms of financing their businesses. And then you've got somebody on the other side saying, that they're taking away this whole idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion that affects black women. They're taking away affirmative action that they've studied and said affects black women, right? With regards to DEI and affirmative action, the greatest recipient of all of those benefits were white women. That's statistically documented, but you will never hear them say that, right? You will never hear them say that. right? And so we need to now go back to the grassroots. You know, one of the things I did on Sunday was to challenge the stereotype. Yes, to talk about it, to talk about the issue, because you have to begin to create distance between the stereotype and the real issue. Yes, that there are black men that have handled themselves incorrectly with regards to their children, right? And that has caused a sense of anger. That has caused a sense of perpetual pain. And yes, I challenge those black men, single men who have made babies, who are single fathers, but don't see their child. I challenge them to get in their child's life. I challenge them. And it was a little rough. It was a little quiet in church. And I wasn't long, praise him. But that challenge needed to be there. But I also dealt with the stereotype that all black men are not like that. All single black fathers are not like that. That is a meme that is that is being created in the context of that, you know, from Hollywood all the way to our now. Right? But that is not reality. I know a lot of black men who are fathers, who are single, who spend a lot of time, quality time with their children, that they co-parent successfully, right? And I challenge the black women too. I challenge them as well, that if we're going to have this conversation and if we're going to talk about black fatherhood and we're going to talk about fathering the future and move away from the stereotype, then you can't use the child as a pawn when that man wants to be a part of that child's life. What do you mean a pawn? Well, he can't see his daughter. He can't see his son unless XYZ and XYZ ABC. Or he moving on. He got another woman. I'm not going to let no man, him come and take my child with his other woman. See, that issue is not about the child. The issue is about you. And I challenged that on Sunday, because if you don't challenge the issue, you'll end up with the stereotype. Talk in here, I will. If you don't talk about and challenge the issue, we will end up with the stereotype. So part of dealing with the lie is really talking about and extrapolating so that we can get to the truth, right? We have to talk about what is true. Are black men not being there for their children? Yes, there are some black men, but not a high percentage of black men, right? They don't talk about the percentage, right? Because that's against the narrative. That's against the stereotype. And so those black men in our church, I challenge them. And in our community, yes, I challenge them to get in your place. Get in your place. And then I challenge the black women who are single, saying that I told them that we're not telling you Happy Father's Day. That's you on Mother's Day. What you need to do is provide the space for this man who made this baby with you to be a part of his child's life. Watch this. And a check should not be the precedent, should not be the overarching. No, this child needs more than just a check. Do not diminish the value of childhood and a man's participation in that child's life simply to a child support in terms of money and for a fiduciary concern. No, child support is presence. Child support is being there. Child support is showing up at the PTA. Child support is, yes, you coming to the teacher's conference, you picking him up on the weekends, you getting him through the week. That's what the support is. We're not just the child's pocketbooks. We're talking about, yes, we are talking about the entire being of that child. And that can only, let me try this again, only happen when we talk about the issue so we won't end up with the stereotype. We have to tell the truth. Yes, black men, get in your place in your family. If you're a single black man and you got kids out there and you're not a part of their life, I'm going to challenge you to get in your place. You can look at me in that tone of voice. It ain't going to change what I said. Yeah, because guess what? I got the mic. So listen to me. You got to because only a father can bless. Yes, that's Genesis chapter 49. Yep. Only a father can bless. Only a father has been given the power to bless his sons and daughters. That means give them the future and prophesy to them. Without a man in that family, that child has a sense of missingness that I don't care how good mama does. That child will always have a sense of missingness because the sponsor for them being in this world is not present in their life. We got to talk about the issue. right? And as uncomfortable that might make us, we got to talk about the issue so we disempower and break the stereotype. We got to do that. My goodness, listen, I need y'all to keep it right here. We're having a wonderful conversation right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. So much more to come. Keep it right here. Don't you dare miss a thing.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back. It's the top of the hour right here on the Culture Call, 11 a.m. and some change. That's right. And we are having an amazing day, an amazing conversation. But I want to welcome, if you're just joining us for the second hour, want to welcome each and every one of you to the CC family, the Culture Call. We have a time every day, absolutely, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We talk a little bit, indeed, as we say in our opening, about everything, and I am not shy of talking about, whatever subject it is. I'm going to do my research, and we're going to have a conversation because I believe that that's my assignment to empower my community so that make sure that we are not late, last, or lost in what is going on. And I know that whoever told you to listen to the Culture Call, you ought to buy them lunch today. Absolutely. Because it was one of the best advice decisions that you made today to listen to our provocative show. Always want to remind you that you can definitely send in your public service announcements or events to culturecall.praise@gmail.com. That's culturecall.praise@gmail.com. We want to let everybody know what you're doing important to push our community forward. Yeah, all over Tuscaloosa. I want to make sure everybody knows about the great things that are happening in our neck of the woods. Listen, we're having a provocative conversation today, and probably a little bit controversial as well, as we talk about black men and breaking stereotypes. And I take this very passionately, I'm very personal, as not just passionately, but very, very personal, because I think it is a conversation that must need be broached in our community as we seek to become better, as we seek to, part of the dismantling of our people, we have to deal with some very difficult conversations. The conversation that we have about this country, is different than others have, right? That July 4th means something different to us, according to Frederick Douglass, the late great abolitionist. Frederick Douglass said, what is July 4th to the black man? Because in this country, it was their freedom. Well, at July 4th, it wasn't our freedom at all. Black people were not free. We didn't get free totally until the 1900s after the Civil War, and it took a while for it to get to Galveston, Texas, and this is why we celebrate Juneteenth, right? And not just emancipation in January, right? So our history in this country, even post that, we had to deal then with this whole idea of black disenfranchisement, post-Reconstruction, Jim Crow, and even up until the present time, all of the, prison to school to prison pipeline, mass incarceration, all of those things that we have to deal with, and I don't want to turn this into complaining, but it's just the reality, right? And sometimes people are like, well, that's complaining. No, it's not. I am not bit more complaining at all, not at one single solitary bit, but I am bringing to the understanding the level of plague that we have to deal with as black and brown people, especially black men. And for whatever reason, this country has made it difficult for black men. Not impossible, but definitely difficult, right? For the black man and black women to gain their agency, to understand who we are in this complex society. And I think it is important for us as we gain that, as we understand that, to address it. I don't think we need to run away from it. I think part of what we do as those of us who have power, platform, and activation is, yes, challenge the status quo. And part of that status quo, as I said in our last segment, that if we don't talk about the issues in our community, we create the space, the vacuum space for those issues to become stereotypical, right? That I guess if they're not dealing with their issues, right, yeah, then they must want it to be that way. You feel what I'm saying? That if we don't talk about what really needs to happen in our communities, then they must, want it the way that they want it. And that can be absolutely patently false. And I want to talk about it because, as not just a member of, or not just a proponent of black men, but also in a place of authority and power in our community with regards to pastoring a black church and having the respect of people in the community, that if those who are in power and possess agency do not create conversation, constructive conversation, conversations that, yes, deal with the issue, deal with the problem, but also in that come with a level of solution and challenge toward the solution, then we will be stuck with all of these stereotypical things that go on in our community all across the country, from the Pacific Northwest all the way down to the Atlantic and the Gulf in Miami, Florida, and all those different kinds of places. And so it's imperative that we do have these conversations. Again, growing up, this whole idea of black male absenteeism, black male violence, and hypersexuality, that all we want from our women is sexual gratification, and not to diminish any of the anatomical and or the biological, physiological needs that anyone has. But the reality is, we don't, as black men, don't wake up every morning thinking about sex. Now, if you do, kudos to you, brother. But the men who got to go to work, men who wants to be an active part of their family, who participate in their community, have responsibility and obligation, their mind does not have the leisure or, quote unquote, the pseudo satisfaction of always having to think about sex and satisfying those needs, right? And then when you hypersexualize the man, and then, you hypersexualize them toward white women, which is another fallacy, another myth. We love who we love, regardless of race as a social construct. We love who we love. And so, there's a elevation that black men don't like black women because black men choose to be in love with black women, or whatever that may look like. Right? From a societal perspective, that they're trying to create, first of all, warfare between black men and black women. And they're trying to create this whole disconnected community. And one of the things I do not like, that I hate with great disdain, that we won't ever, we won't ever tell the truth about, and call a thing a thing. And when we don't do that, when we don't call a thing, we put ourselves in positions whereby we allow other people to define us, right? Historically, black men have been dehumanized and caricatured in the media and in popular culture, reinforcing all of these stereotypes to create, a distorted image of their character. I want to deal with that whole notion of distorted image, right? That from the time, now here is the problem that a lot of black men in particular have with the notion of Christianity. Now lean in, because it's going to get a little rocky, but we're going to come on smooth territory, right? The whole notion and the problem is that Christianity as a religion has been utilized, watch my language, has been utilized to assign worth and value to blackness, black men and black women and black children, especially around the world. They have utilized Christianity to assign a certain worth, and that worth is not in Genesis. Genesis 1:26-28, let us make man in our own image and our own likeness, right? In an image of God created he him, male and female created he them, and then God blessed them and said, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, all, et cetera, right? So there is an image of the Imago Dei that every man possessed. One of the things that those in post early church formation, those in Europe, in Portugal, in Italy, and Rome, and all of those things, they tried to create and twist Christianity to utilize it as an agency to expand empire, right? And the way that they did that is that they used Christianity to say that that white people were the most valuable to God. Okay, you got to understand that the book is not even written in that area. So the history of the Bible is not even a European history. They try even today to make the Bible and Christianity an exploit in European history or an extension of European history, and it is not. Come here. It is not. That book is a North African book or Far East, or what they call now Middle Eastern book, and they call it Middle East. There's really no Middle East. Israel is in Africa when you really get to understand it on all of that. That's all of that is Africa. It's the largest continent. It's the motherland for humanity. But in order for us to begin our vestiges of subjugation and remain some level of morality and to assign some level of God ordained us to be wicked, violent, and superior to everybody else, they twisted and they twisted Christianity to be a religion that would propagate European domineering in a European Roman Empire, right? And so they utilized Christianity to fuel Roman Empire 2.0, 3.0. Right? That's not what the book is. And so when you see a lot of black men talk about, well, that's a white man's religion, it really is not, right? That it is, they used the religion to fuel their own identity. And one of the things they did is attempted to rob, and it started in Portugal with the White Lion, Henry the White Lion, all those different kinds of things. We could go through the history, but it would be too much for radio. But, that's a good lecture. They utilized that so that they could feel good about putting African slaves into this idea of servitude or servile behavior. I have to rob God's image because we understand, and they understood, that the Bible spoke definitely about putting people in slavery and the like, because all of us from the Bible possess the image of God. Abraham, Moses, David, all those people were not European. Solomon, all of them, they were not European people at all, right? They were just not. They were African, dark-skinned people, right? But because there was no social construct of race, then every human had value. And then, of course, and that's in Genesis, then we get to 3, and after the fall, then men begin to be men of war, men of violence, right? When they got kicked out of the garden, all of these different kinds of things as a precipitation, not of God's idea, but of man's idea to reject God's idea. Try it again. That all of this stuff is a precipitation, not of God's idea, but of man's idea to reject God's idea. Period, right? And so even in what did Hollywood do? Created images of, they pushed Roman and Greco-Roman society. They pushed all of that. They made Moses white. If they on television, they didn't, Moses is Charlton Heston. Moses was not that color, and Yul Brynner at the time who portrayed Pharaoh, Pharaoh was probably much darker than that, or a little bit darker than Yul Brynner at the time, but that was the propagation. All of the heroes have to be white. and all of the bad people got to be black. When at that time, each of them looked alike, right? In terms of when you looked at them on the face, that people were divided by regions and ethnicities, not by color. That was not an issue in the early world, right? And so when I talk to a lot of black men and try to really talk about engaging spirituality and Christianity, it's like I say, you got to understand the book. You got to understand, but nobody's negating that black people are in the Bible. Nobody's negating that book is a African creation. If you negate that, then yeah, you need to go study some more, right? Nobody's negating where the Dead Sea Scrolls and all of the writings were located, especially of the Old Testament. Nobody's negating that. What I am telling you is that it was politicized. Christianity was politicized in Europe. That the moment that Europeans got involved with Christianity, beginning with Constantinople and Charlemagne and all those other kind of people and all the political situations, because Rome saw that Christianity was growing. So they aligned themselves with maybe Constantine rather, align themselves. Well, let's try to partner. Since we can't beat them, let's join them, and let's utilize Christianity as a political tool. Much of what you see in this country with regards to a lot of what goes on with Christianity is a political tool, not religion, not spirituality, but a political tool. And again, too long a conversation for radio. But again, when you buy into the memeology of social media and uneducated people, you'll be rejecting the very book that details your history. Right? The Bible is also a history book of black people. It is also a history book of a certain called out people who were had some chocolicity at the time. Period. Right? So that is very, very important. But again, that whole idea is I want to rob the image of God away from those black folks, especially that black man. I do not want them to understand that they are the image of God in the earth, and then that image in the beginning was created and had the physical appearance of them. Don't miss it, Culture Call, that was the whole idea. That was the whole struggle. That has been the whole struggle. If we taught the Bible like the Bible is supposed to be taught, you would be flabbergasted to understand that a lot of the notions and a lot of the details of what they tried to tell you of that Bible is important. Or it has to, I'm trying to put it in the simplest way, that it depicts us in a place that is connected to deity, as opposed to what we think now, right? That everything black is demonic and everything white is angelic. That was not what the Bible meant. That was what was created in a place so that these stereotypes could continue to go on. Right? In this context of even the slave Bible that they gave the slave preachers, right? When they were having church or having an early idea of church in the hush harbors in Georgia, South Carolina, and Virginia, and when they had to go hide as the word of God was reading, or when they were reading the word and when they were singing the spirituals of the songs, right? In those songs, right? That they gave the slave preacher the Bible, but they took out Exodus. They took out anything that would give agency and worth and value to black people, right? Because it was the beginning of the stereotype. And we have to deal with that. We have to talk about that. We've got to elucidate our people, especially our black men, right? That a lot of them won't connect to God, won't connect to Jesus, because they think that they are quote unquote white men. They think that. But white people, the Bible says that when Herod was trying to attack Jesus, watch this, that he sent Joseph, Mary, and Jesus down into Egypt to hide. Well, now you can't hide if you white down in Egypt. No, that means Jesus had to appear to look like them. They had to have some kind of characteristics and appearance. I'm just trying to appeal to your sense of, when you think about that, that makes sense, right? Right? That's important. In the book of Acts, when the Kandake, the eunuch was coming and Philip met the eunuch, you have to understand that eunuch was reading from Isaiah. Wait a minute. And where was they coming from? From Africa. He was already reading from Isaiah, the Old Testament, what we consider to be the Old Testament. You got to stop and ask, well, where did that come from? How did that happen? If there is no presence of us in the holy text, if we had no idea or no understanding of what, the Pentateuch and the prophets and all of that, how were they coming? Why were they coming to Jerusalem to worship? Right? And so he just needed someone to explain it to him. And that's what Philip did. So that's important for us to understand that we do definitely have a presence. Let's try it again. Do have a presence in the text. And so, again, this whole notion of that black man, you've got to be this and you got to be that, and that God, there's no, you got to go and do this and all these other things to have a divine presence. That is one of the greatest farce and deceptions that was strategically done, right? Strategically done, right? Remember, the serpent always comes and asks, if thou be the Son of God, to shake you and to make you think that you are not God's son. That's what the serpent's agency is. And not only the serpent, but anyone that will utilize the same tactics is of the serpent, is of serpentine theology, right? And that is important to know, that they created a narrative that still fits today, right? That all they're good to be is the criminal or the drug dealer or the pimping preacher, or, all of these things that castigate black men. And if we don't have lucid, soluble conversations that causes them to walk, through history and see how things were strategically done, not just from memes and not from just Google and TikTok, but if someone just literally sat down and say, hey, here is the deal. Here is what really went on. If we can create those levels of conversations, then we can begin to deal with the genesis of a lot of the stereotypes, because these stereotypes have real world consequences. Let me say that again, Culture Call, that these stereotypes of black men have real consequences, that we think they belong in jail, that we think they belong on the corner, that we begins to shape our conscience and our consciousness. Yeah, and our conscientiousness, if we can even go that farther, of how we view, treat, and assume about black men. Real world consequences, right? That a black man gets stopped and we wonder what he did. What he do? Did he deserve it? Right? And they're showing you right in their faces that they don't believe that that's for everybody, because the person that they're supporting now for president is a convicted felon. And you and I know, if that person was a black man that running for president, that he could be a convicted felon. Black convicted felons fighting for their right to vote, right? A white convicted felon who is rich and affluent, assumably, because we found out that doing this, that the wealth that they purported to have was just a farce, but nonetheless, that they can run for president. I'm talking about president of these here United States without any kind of thing, without any kind of real life penalty and litigation or anything, without any say. And they will rally behind them. See, this is why stereotypes, right? They had an issue from President Obama wearing a tan suit. But you ain't got no issue with this individual cheating on his wife who was pregnant at the time with a porn star? No, you don't have a problem with that? See, stereotypes matter because you will assume that he is a man of honor, respect, and prestige. But if that was vice versa, in your mind, man, throw him to the wolves. because that's what the stereotype says that we ought to do, right? That's why we got to attack it and talk about it plain. Absolutely. And that's why we're talking about it right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Praise 93.3 and 790 WTSK. We've got a little bit more to go, y'all, and I don't need you to miss it. You're going to miss the good stuff. So don't you dare do it. Stay tuned.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call. That's right, with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. And we are having a terrific Tuesday. We are having a day today, and I'm super, super excited about all that we have already discussed, talking about black men and breaking stereotypes. And I'm hoping that you're leaning into the conversation. I'm hoping that you are. Listen, before I begin, I want to just share some things. We're checking my emails and making sure I don't miss anything. And I just missed a couple of public service announcements, and I do not want to do that. Definitely. And so we definitely want to make sure that you are aware of the great, great things going on in our community, right? Good deal. Good deal. Listen, the Weeping Mary Missionary Baptist Church wants to invite you to their youth and young adult celebration Back to the Future, and they want you to be a part of that. And the dates are, I can't see with my glasses on. That's right. There it is. The dates is this June 23rd. The date is the June 23rd. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's in the next couple of days. Yeah. They want you to come to their Back to the Future annual youth and young adult celebration. And they're going to be empowering youth and making sure from June 19th at Sunday, June 23rd, and at 9:15, they're going to have breakfast. June 19th is going to be a day trip to the Elevates 1186 Real Artesian Water Plant. And then on Sunday, the 23rd, it's going to be a youth and young adult reunion choir there. Their speakers are Joshua Lanier, Donnie Lee Jr., and Jalen Milrow. That's right, the star of the UA football team, Crimson Tide. It's going to be there on the 23rd. Those guest speakers are going to be there, so you don't want to miss that. We're going to post this on our Culture Call Facebook page so that you can see it and be a part of it. That's the Weeping Mary Missionary Baptist Church on 2701 20th Street, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 35401. That's the Reverend Ricky J. McKinney is the pastor. And then at the end of the month, the youth of the Impact Nation, the INTAC youth of the Impact Nation has their takeover weekend from the 28th through the 30th, and they're going to be there from Friday to Sunday, celebrating our youth and young adult there. Friday night, we're going to have with us a Praise Power INTAC edition with Elder Romeo Gibson. He's going to be our speaker. And Saturday, they're going to be at their 2000 themed skate party at Super Skate. And then on Sunday is the Honors Day with our very own Justin Morton. He'll be bringing the inspirational speech, and we'll be celebrating all of our graduates and all of our honorees who got the cords. That's a big thing at our church. You got to get the cords, the honor cords. And so they're going to be there on the 28th through the 30th of this month. And so you got Weeping Mary and the Impact Nation have something for the youth. You don't want to miss it. Weeping Mary Baptist Church on the June the 23rd, and the Impact Nation on the 28th through the 30th. You don't want to miss it. Let your youth and young adult come out, and let's celebrate them together and push them to do excellent, even better than they've ever done before. I know that we can do it as a community. I think it's important, even as we have this conversation about breaking stereotypes with black males, that we support our young people, because that's where it begins, with our middle school and our teenagers and our young adults, our 20 years and 25-year-olds. We've got to begin to have conversations with them, not just boys, but with girls, not with men, but just with women as well, young men and young women, that they have an obligation to understand what is the stereotype and how they can fuel and utilize their lives to do that. In this last section, I just want to talk a little bit about this whole idea of the stereotype of violence and how they attempt to paint black men as those who are violent, vicious, and abusive. Again, that whole idea has a long history. long history in this country. And they utilized it from, or started it out from the black enslaved men, fighting for their freedom and escaping, for their freedom, and causing insurrections. Nat Turner, and even from the Caribbean islands of Haiti and Jamaica, they attempted to utilize and castigate and brand black people, black men in particular, with a certain level of violence against the institution, against what they considered against their women and white men, right? It was a little bit harder to paint it against white men because white men were slaveholders. And so they made it seem like, and I told you already about The Birth of a Nation, that movie, that wicked racist movie. They tried to, didn't have any black people. They put white people in blackface and, made them out to be savages from a dark continent, raping and stealing and pillaging and killing. And it was warranted that the KKK, what they call the cavalry, come in and save the right race from these ravenous black people. And from that time, even to now, they paint black men as this, this insatiable, cruel, wicked, vile individual creature, if you will. They tried to creaturize, and better yet, dehumanize the black man to make them seem like they are utterly violent and abusive to women. And they rob, they steal, and they're vicious. They'll, all of those different kinds of things, which is patently false, right? That the criminal organizations in the country did not come from Africa. They came from Europe. They came from Ireland. They came from Italy. All of that. The mob and the mafia, those were vestiges not of Africa. That violence was perpetrated by Europeans, right? And so, but again, they highlighted, or they esteem, the Godfather. You see how they were portrayed? They esteem the mafia. They esteem this whole mystique behind that European and white violence. They almost mystified and mystical, made you want to be the Godfather. All of these different kinds of things, drug trafficking and all of that. They portrayed that as the epitome of manhood and masculinity and all of that, while assigning violence and abusiveness and viciousness to black men. Now, stop and pause and think about that, because that's the reality. That's the reality that was created. And if we don't deal with it from it's intentional. Oh, they didn't mean it that way. No, they meant it that way. And you've got to begin to understand your value, because it's an attack on value and worth. Oh my goodness. I wish I was sitting down teaching a seminar and pull out the chart that I teach my church about value and worth. That's documented in books, anthropologists, and all of them. They document a lot of the people who we are hail in science from Europe. They have this whole idea of this racial stereotypical behavior, and they charted it out, right? Because at that time they thought that that's how the world would always be, right? Because if I can be violent, abusive, disenfranchising, if I can steal and rob and pillage and domineer, right? All of that, but I can assign that violence to another person, right? That if I can come in and every wicked thing, assign that wickedness and that darkness to the people who are actually dark and get people to believe it, then that means I could be the richest person and rob poor people and blame it on another poor person, and just because they're of a different skin color. I just described Bacon's rebellion in this country. That's what it was. That's what Bacon's rebellion. And that thing has had a chokehold on the South. Yes, that early in the Bacon's Rebellion, black and white poor people began to amalgamate. And so the rich white people and the aristocracy of that time said, well, let's give the poor whites a little level of privilege. Let's create this whiteness and make whiteness an area of privilege, right? And when we do that, here's what we do. We do that, and then they will be the ones that we can use. But the issue was never the equality. The issue was creating a stereotype. And if you don't deal with that poor blacks and poor whites were really an alignment and friends in the beginning. But it was the rich people at that time that says if we don't do something, they will create an alliance and overthrow us. Then it became about class, right? We'll use race and so that class won't be discovered, right? Oh my goodness. And now we create this whole idea of violence. And you put it there and they'll rob you and they'll steal, and we'll put it in movies and we'll put it on the radio and we'll put it in magazines and we'll do this and we'll do that. So we're creating an idea in their minds that if we create that idea in the minds, then watch this, then they'll leave our stuff alone, and then we can use law enforcement, law and order to stop them, to put them in prison, so we don't have to have. And listen to the language that's coming out today. Listen to the language that's being promulgated today, right? That's very important. If you're going to attack it, yeah. So they're using that language and creating that so that they can remain in positions of power. That black men are no more violent, and probably a lot less violent than any other people on the face of the planet. Provingly so, that they are less violent. And so we must, as a symbol of creating a whole new idea of what the black man looks like. In this Men's Month, I think we need to, every preacher and every teacher, they've got to have a discussion, and not just on Father's Day. There's got to be, how do we change this image? How do we attack the image, right? And one of the things is that we've got to get over this feeling of that if we talk about it, that we are being reverse racist. First of all, that's a notion sociologically, psychologically, that does not exist, because to be in an issue, you can be bigoted but not be racist. Racism in its context means to use your bigotry and positions of power and disenfranchise other people from living their qualities of life. You can hate anybody else as a person, but if you cannot stop the way they live their life, how they vote, if they can vote, if their children live in any neighborhoods, the school systems and all that, if you can't do that, then you're not racist, and that's not racism at all, period. That's the true definition, right? Not because you hurt my feelings because I brought out a truth about the history of this country. That's not racist. That's bringing you into a truth so that we can have an intelligent conversation about really what's going on in this country. And I believe that as a black man, let me start off from where I started, Culture Call, that we've got work to do. We've got to have the difficult conversations. We've got to talk about how historically we have been painted. Black men love their women, love their families, love their children, are present, are not grifters, are not stealers, are not thieves and robbers, but they are men of integrity, high character, high moral value, that are helpers, are lovers, affectionate, yes, emotional and intelligent, right? Academically intelligent. And when we begin to deal with that from a community and empower that in our community, we're going to see a tremendous change, not only in our areas, in our communities, but in this entire state and definitely in this entire country. Listen, I see the runway, but we got some more to talk about, just a little bit more. Yeah. When we come back from this commercial, yes, that's right. I hope and pray that you have been blessed today. And I tell you, I need you to keep it right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Yeah. After these messages, we'll be right back. Don't miss it. Listen, beloved, this has been an amazing, amazing day. And I'm grateful that you all have traveled with me on this difficult, but necessary conversation. Black men and breaking stereotypes. We are loving, we are caring, we are strong. We are fathers, present. We are husbands, loving and intimate. We are preachers, standing in God's righteousness. We are businessmen. Yeah, we are black men. And I'm super, super proud to be one. Listen, we've got to end this show, but I'm telling you, we've got much more to come. Stay tuned. The entire week, there's always a message right here on the Culture Call. But as my grandmama and my mama would say at the end of every phone call, I love you a bushel, I love you a peck, and I love you a hug around the neck. This has been yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on the Culture Call. Praise 93.3, 790 WTSK. I need you to keep riding with us throughout the day. Be kind, be intentional about who you love. Keep yourself away from evil and keep your heart in a place where God can use you. Until tomorrow, y'all be blessed. Have a good one. Peace.